Ever get that feeling when your phone's about to die and you're nowhere near a charger?
Oh, yeah.
That range anxiety is a big deal for people thinking about switching to electric vehicles.
It's a huge barrier, definitely.
But what if I told you there's this new battery tech and it could, like, totally change the game?
You talk about graphene batteries. Those are getting a ton of buzz.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Graphene batteries. Our source for this deep dive is an article called Graphene Batteries, the Future of Electric Mobility.
Catchy title.
Right. So it seems like everyone's hyped about graphene batteries, but are they really the future of EVs? Like, let's get into it.
Yeah, the article kicks off with this really compelling image, right? Imagine you're cruising down the highway, no worries about running out of juice. San Francisco to LA on a single charge, no problem.
Okay, so we're talking like a total game changer for a road trip.
Exactly. That's the kind of potential we're talking about here.
Okay, but hold on. For those of us who, don't have a PhD in materials science, what exactly is graphene?
Sure. You know graphite, like in a pencil.
Yeah, I used to use those back, before computers.
Right. Well, graphene is like if you could peel off a single layer of that graphite, just one atom thick, and it's crazy strong, super lightweight, and it conducts electricity like insanely well.
So it's like this super thin, super powerful conductor. What is it about its structure that makes it so good for batteries?
So it all comes down to how the carbon atoms are arranged. This unique structure lets electrons flow much more freely than in your typical lithium-ion battery.
And that means?
Faster charging, faster discharging. Basically, it's like a superhighway for electrons.
Ah, okay. So you're saying it's like a super efficient way to move energy around.
Exactly.
No wonder everyone's excited about it. The article goes on about all these like incredible advantages of graphene batteries. What were some of the things that stood out to you?
Honestly, the potential increase in capacity is mind-blowing. We're talking potentially 60% longer range compared to the lithium-ion batteries we use now.
Wait, 60%? Seriously?
Yeah, 60%. Imagine range anxiety could be a thing of the past.
Wow. That would be huge. Road trips in an electric car would actually be, doable.
Okay, so what about charging time? Doesn't the article say something about, like, charging your car and the time it takes to grab a coffee?
Yeah, that's another area where graphene could be revolutionary. We're talking under 10 minutes for a full charge, maybe even faster. Imagine filling up your car battery as fast as you can fill a gas tank now. That would be a total game changer for everyday life. So we're talking like super fast charging, way more range. It almost sounds too good to be true, right? But what about the lifespan of these batteries? Didn't the article mention something about thousands of charge cycles?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Think of it this way. You know those cheap water balloons that break after a couple of fills?
Totally.
Okay, so lithium-ion batteries, they're like those cheap balloons. But graphene batteries, those are the super strong ones that you can use over and over and over again.
So we're talking about a battery that could potentially last for, like, the entire life of the car?
Potentially, yeah. We're talking thousands of charge cycles before you see any real drop in performance.
Wow, that's incredible. Not just for convenience, but for the environment too, right? I mean, no more replacing batteries every couple of years.
Absolutely. The sustainability aspect is massive. The article really hammers that home. Less replacements mean less waste, fewer resources used. It's a win-win.
And it's not just about being green, right? It's also about the cost savings. New batteries aren't cheap.
Exactly. Longer lifespan means you're saving money in the long run. Makes those EVs even more appealing, financially speaking.
It's wild. And it seems like the industry is taking notice, too. The article even mentioned big players like Samsung and Huawei, even Tesla. They're all investing in graphene battery research.
Oh, yeah, for sure. This isn't just some, research lab experiment anymore. When these companies start pouring money into something, you know they see serious potential.
So we've got this potentially revolutionary technology, right? Major companies are investing. It all seems like, full speed ahead for the electric revolution, right? But I'm guessing it's not quite that simple.
You're right. There are always challenges. The article doesn't shy away from those. There were some hurdles to clear before we're all driving around on graphene batteries.
Like what? What's the biggest roadblock?
Right now, the biggest challenge is scaling up production. You see, graphene, this wonder material, it's actually pretty difficult and expensive to produce on a large scale. We're talking about manipulating matter at the atomic level. It's not easy.
So even if we can make these incredible batteries in a lab, actually producing them in the quantities we need for, the entire automotive industry, that's a whole other ballgame.
Exactly. And then there's the infrastructure issue, right?
What do you mean?
Well, the world has like fully bought into lithium-ion batteries at this point. Factories, supply chains, the whole system, it's built around this existing technology.
It's like we're trying to reinvent the wheel
Well,
or switch from gasoline to electric all over again. Except this time, it's the batteries themselves that need replacing.
that's a good way to put it. It would require a complete overhaul of the entire industry, really, from the ground up.
Wow. Okay, so we've talked about the challenges, but let's say, for a second, that we figure it out. We overcome these hurdles. What happens then? What does a world powered by graphene actually look like?
It's exciting to think about, right? The article paints a pretty optimistic picture. Countries that are going all in on EVs, think Norway, Germany, China, they're the ones who stand to benefit the most.
So we're talking entire countries running on electric vehicles, all juiced up in a matter of minutes and able to go ridiculously further than today's EVs. That's a pretty wild future, you know?
It's definitely a big shift, and it's not just about the cars themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. Mass adoption of EVs, it could really shake things up in terms of our energy grid. We'd be looking at a much faster transition to renewables, solar, wind, that kind of thing.
Right, because if everyone's plugging in their cars, we'll need a lot more clean energy to keep things running.
Exactly. It could be a real catalyst for change in that sector.
Hmm.
The article also touches on some potential geopolitical implications, something about how this could mean we're less reliant on lithium mining.
Yeah, I remember that. Didn't quite catch all the details, though. Something about lithium and, global tensions.
Right. So right now, there's a lot of pressure around lithium, right? Because it's essential for batteries. And the demand is only going up. So you've got countries, even companies, kind of scrambling to control those resources.
Makes sense. Everyone needs lithium for their batteries, so it becomes this, valuable commodity.
Exactly. And that can lead to, well, let's just say it can create some geopolitical friction. A switch to graphene batteries, though, that could really shake things up. Would be diversifying our energy storage resources, relying less on lithium.
So less scrambling for lithium, maybe a bit less tension on the global stage. I mean, that's pretty significant when you think about it. But I'm still kind of hung up on the whole sustainability angle with graphene. The article makes it sound like it's this, green savior, but is it really that simple?
It's a good question. And like with most things, it's complicated. Yeah, graphene itself is abundant. It's actually one of the most abundant materials on Earth. But the manufacturing process, that's where things get a little murky.
Murky how?
Well, turning raw graphene into something you can actually use in a battery, it takes energy, a lot of energy. And it often involves some pretty complex chemical processes.
Ah, okay. So even if the material itself is, naturally occurring, the way we process it could still have an environmental impact.
Precisely. And then there's the question of, what else goes into a graphene battery? Are those other components sustainably sourced? How are they manufactured? These are all things researchers and companies are looking into right now.
Yeah, it's we can't just focus on one part of the equation. We need to look at the entire life cycle of the battery to really understand its environmental impact. Speaking of, didn't the article kind of skip over the whole recycling aspect of graphene batteries?
You're right. It didn't really delve into that too much.
Yeah.
But that's another crucial piece of the puzzle.
Totally.
If we're talking about a truly sustainable battery tech, we need to figure out how to recycle these things efficiently and in a way that's, good for the planet. The last thing we want to do is create a whole new waste problem.
Definitely. We've solved one problem only to create another. Not exactly a win. So where does that leave us? I mean, it seems like there's still a lot we don't know about graphene batteries.
Yeah, there's definitely more research to be done, more questions to answer. But that's part of what makes this such an exciting field. The potential is huge, but we have to be realistic. We need to separate the hype from, the actual science.
Absolutely. It's easy to get swept up in all the excitement, but it's important to keep asking those tough questions. So to wrap things up, it seems like graphene batteries represent this potential revolution in electric vehicles. And not just EVs, but potentially the whole energy sector.
Definitely. But there are still challenges to overcome. Scaling up production, figuring out the whole sustainability angle, making sure it's not just, a lateral move from lithium ion.
Exactly. It's a complex issue, lots of moving parts, but that's what we're here for, right? To dig into these complex issues and try to make sense of it all. So to our listeners, if you're excited about the future of electric vehicles, keep an eye on graphene. It could be a real game changer. But as with all new technologies, approach the hype with a critical eye, keep asking questions, and never stop learning. And that's a wrap on this deep dive into the world of graphene batteries. Thanks for joining us.